Hey, the incomplete skeptic, sober wise guy, ex-con, all that stuff coming at you again. The world is, man, we get all busy and stuff and put off doing things, and I need to stay on top of putting out an ex-con journal here and there. And um I wanted to pop something in there about before I got out, the day before I got out of the joint, God willing, the last time. Um, and I'm not even going to care about my background here if it's good enough or not. So, it, it was August 16th of 90. And knowing I'm getting out the next day, and I'm really nervous because when people know you're going to get out, sometimes they want to do something to you to make you not enjoy your update, like get into a fight, start trouble, um, get another infraction, and then you don't get out because you lose good time, and that's why a lot of people don't want anyone knowing when they get out. Some people go around bragging about when they're leaving and stuff, and I always thought that was stupid, man. And it was in Minnesota doing time was different than in Missouri, and in Missouri they want to kill you the day before you get out, or maybe an hour before you get out. And it's a little nastier there. Here they're more likely to be jealous and try to do something to get you in trouble, right? So whether it be prisoners or even occasionally staff, right? So it's just life. But my mental state before I got out was, I had created some paradigms as a person doing time, and your brain gets kind of acclimated to high stress living, and the rules we set up for ourselves in prison are quite different than the rules we have out here in the so-called free world. But the truth is, the free world is in our own consciousness. It's not, the outside prison is never as powerful as the one we construct for ourselves. And our response to life is something we have a choice about. But if you don't know you have that choice, then you might not make that choice. It's an inside job, but if you don't know it and you're busy using the blame thrower and blaming everyone else for your paradigms, then, well, there you go. But the day before I got out, I'm standing in the cell block waiting for lunch, and they had a couple of barber chairs next to um, the cell hall doors where you go to lunch. And the cell hall is locked, and then um, when the bell rings for lunch, all of Pavlov's children run to the cafeteria, uh, but we're waiting for that. And there's some people sitting sometimes in the barber chairs because it's a little more comfortable than just standing there. And I remember looking at this one guy sitting in the barber chair, and I really didn't like him. I mean, I didn't hate him, but I had a lot of anger within me. And and I remember thinking of how if I ended up back in prison again, I just wouldn't be able to do it anymore. I would just, I figured if I came back, if somebody looked at me sideways, I was going to, and these are the words that occurred to me at the time. I actually remember it, and I thought I'm going to plant a piece of steel in somebody's chest. They so much as look at me wrong, or I'm going to force them to plant one in mine. But, it's just like I was so far down into this helpless feeling of depression in my life. It's like, man, I can't do this anymore. And I was spiritually bankrupt in some ways. And who would think of something like that unless they were extremely depressed or something, or maniacal? And I'm not a maniacal person. The deeper part of me is always looking for a peaceful way. But in prison, you develop skills of so-called survival that, it's like you have to be tough to get through it, and you have to look tough and all that, right? So, and sometimes, no matter where you are, you gotta paint on a tough face, even if it's difficult. So yeah, and those are the thoughts I had anyway. If I came back, I'm just gonna be like that. And I didn't want to be like that. And it's not who I really am, It's in my nature to walk into a situation and try to be cheerful or be cheerful organically. And and becoming what I am not is what we're all at risk of. We experience something difficult. We are at risk of becoming the thing that we disdain. And, so don't let the haters make you hate. Those that hurt you, forgive them, not because they deserve forgiveness. That might even be irrelevant, but because, you deserve peace. Maybe that's why we're told by, um, Christ to forgive your enemies and love those that despitefully use you. Do it for the sake of a higher way of living. And, you know, I hate to go biblical on you here, but even I just remember that story of Saint Stephen where they're all throwing rocks at him and they're killing him, but he was in ecstasy despite it. And he said, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And these are people that are murdering them, but they think they're doing it in the name of the law. And, some people believe in the death penalty, some don't. And that I'm considering the death penalty if I go back to prison. You look at my view of the death penalty versus somebody else's, isn't it really the same paradigm, right? In a manner of speaking. We get injured and then we act out in anger or fear or whatever, and retribution is more important than mercy, But the Lord's Prayer says, that we're supposed to forgive and forgive us our trespasses or our trespasses as we forgive our trespassers, that whole thing. And easier said than done, you know. So yeah, there I am looking at this guy, knowing if I come back, I'm in deep doo-doo. And they made me sign a document before I was released the next day, and I was released. Um, and saying I wouldn't drink or drug, and if I did and I got caught, I'm going back. So it was really important that I not either get drunk or high, or at least not get caught doing it. Well, I was released on the 17th of August of 90. On the 18th, I thought I was going to have a few beers and maybe just one beer just to prove I'm not an alcoholic. There's a long story behind that, but um, and I ended up basically trying to sell my freedom for a drink for the rest of the night. I was going to have one beer and carbonis and a piece of pizza, and go back home and prove to those a-hole anonymous people that I'm not an alcoholic. And the one drink tasted good and it felt good. And I ended up ordering a pitcher and then two pitchers and three pitchers. And I didn't even get through with the first pitcher before I had two full ones in front of me. And something told me there's something wrong with this picture. But yet I started thinking, where's the women? Where can I party? How can I get out there and have a good time? And I ended up drinking in every bar in Stillwater. And I just got out of Stillwater prison. What are you thinking? It's like when I drink, all my good intentions go out the window. And I forget all the things that are really important to me. And all I can think about is the next drink and feeling good and First there's a saying, first the man takes the drink, then the drink takes the drink, and then the drink takes the man. Well, I was in that process, and I was behaving in such a way that I was being offensive to people, threatening, and I had a miracle happen. And my miracle was not getting arrested and not having anyone beat me up and not having a bouncer throw me out in my ear. And and when the bars closed in Minnesota, I got a cab to Wisconsin. I wanted to keep drinking, and when the bars closed there, I didn't want to stop, but I didn't have a choice. I had to go back, and I got a cab and went back to my apartment in Oak Park Heights, within a mile of Oak Park Heights Prison, where I also did time. Um, and I was really, really sick, and at 3:30 in the morning, I couldn't stop throwing up, and it looked like a commercial for an airing of the Exorcist movie or something in that room, because I was throwing up in such a way, it was just horrid. And I felt like my body, which was smarter than me, was trying to exorcise the demon of alcohol from my body. And I was throwing up so bad, and I couldn't stop throwing up. And that's when I realized I was powerless over alcohol, that I was an alcoholic, and that honesty allowed me to look at the clock at 3:30 in the morning and say I'm an alcoholic. I got honest for once in my life about that. And I immediately came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. That honesty cleared that path to hope that I can be restored to my original condition. And you know, and I turned my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand God. And I realized that I had a miracle that night of not getting arrested. It's one thing to have a spiritual experience of not getting arrested, but having the spiritual awareness of knowing you didn't get arrested. Two different things. And that honesty of being an alcoholic, coming to believe a power greater than me could restore myself to sanity, you know, um, those spiritual experiences, they cleared a path to a new me, a new way of thinking. So I decided that I was going to go take care of me, and to start going to some recovery meetings and stuff. And even though I smelled like a brewery, it was on a Sunday night. I went to my first meeting of my own free will without any other agenda than wanting to be sober and live a good life and stay out of prison and take advantage of the miracle that I experienced of not getting tossed back in the slammer. And and I, heard some things in that first meeting that were very useful to me. Like, it's not what happens, it's when it happens, but it's not also what happens, it's what you perceive about what happens. I had a profound alteration in my reaction to life. And I began a new path that I'm still on. And I'm really glad to say I haven't had to take a drink since August 19th of 90. Thank you, God. And let's keep her going. Um, and I haven't had to go back to prison as a result of it too. So, all right, y'all. I'm going to pop up another video at some point about a spiritual experience that led to a spiritual paradigm and awareness. Somewhere here forward, it's about the spirit and the marble, if you will. It's a metaphor. All right. Peace out.